So that one's recording, that one's recording, that one's recording.
Look at all this recording.
They're all recording. We'll see how it goes. This thing has a built-in stand. So, last we left our intrepid adventurers, we had traveled into the past. It was hard to get there because half of the characters didn't want to go, even though all of the players did. And we are good role players, and so we had to try and figure out how to trick our characters into...
It took an entire session.
Yeah. But we did it. We got into the past. And upon arrival, we appeared on the sigil that... Elganath is his name? I keep forgetting his name. Elganath is the name of the guy that came up with these time travel sigils.
Who doesn't know what they do?
He doesn't know what they do. He sees them in a dream, and then he builds them, or has someone build them, because he's not a mage himself. He's far too stupid. And so, we arrived there. But since it was freshly constructed, it was up on a rickety scaffold, and our arrival knocked it over and destroyed it. So,
shucks.
We wouldn't be able to travel back to the future.
Well, it had to be in that exact spot, which is why they built the scaffold. It had to be up high.
Unless you could get 1.81 gigawatts?
Yes. It's called Wizard Dust D in this setting.
Wizard Powder D, but yes.
Yeah. The Wizard Dust comes later. So anyway, we sort of were at a bit of in a bit of a tricky spot because we didn't want to disrupt the past because we're really, really far back. Any disruption could have huge butterflies.
Dire butterflies.
Literally in this setting, who knows? You know, come back to the future and it's like, butterflies! Oh my god!
Actually, carnivorous butterflies would be terrifying, like in swarms. Although I personally have I freak out when things that flutter. I appreciate the appearance of butterflies, but I don't want them anywhere near me. So that would be like terrifying. If they were coming for you to kill you. That's terrifying, but not in the same way.
So anyway, Elganath was all like, "Oh, awesome! You know how these things work because you came from some mysterious alternate dimension or whatever." Mm-hmm. And he had all kinds of ideas about what had just happened, and we were trying not to tell him. And the other people who were working on this project that he'd hired, they were all very interested in us too because we had just come out of the sigil, the mysterious sigil that they'd made, and didn't know what it did.
And the head of the project, basically, when they had been helping, like Serendipity was helping. That happened last session, helping him repair the sigil. And actually, basically, when we left off, he had just been like, "Okay, good, we're all done. Now we just need the Wizard Powder D and to power it, and we'll be fine." Yeah. And the guy who had been like standing around me, like, "Excuse me, Mr. Elganath," the whole time, he's like, "No, not now."
Yeah.
Said. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Because of how much was destroyed, the shipment that's coming in next week is not going to be nearly enough. We're going to need to send a whole new caravan to get it.
Yep.
And that's going to take like months because it's so far away. And
basically, Wizard Powder D is like super residual, and it only comes from the Ood lands. They manufacture it using a secret process.
It's only made. Well, so there's Wizard. Yeah, they looked all this up in the encyclopedia, and it's like Wizard Powder is about 100 times more potent than Residium, but only costs like 20% more to make, and the Ood know how to make it. And then there's Wizard Powder D, which is fairly new and it's secret. Only one group knows how to make it, but there's bootlegs who make it. But it's only made in the Ood city of Impossible, which is it's actually
the full name is
we laugh at Impossible in Ood, but that just sounds like so people just call it Impossible in common.
Yeah. So basically, we got to go to Impossible and buy a whole crap ton of Wizard Powder D and bring it back before we all disintegrate into dust. Well, not all of us. Aurora and Croesus will both be all right. They're both psychic based classes. Everyone else has arcane spellcasting of one kind or another, which means we're all doomed.
It's possible that Hank won't die because only one of his souls will be turned to dust, but
I'm pretty sure
I
he'll
made it
die.
clear that even if he doesn't die, it would be a campaign ending for Hank thing, right? It'd be like it would be disastrous for him even if he doesn't die.
Like half his brain turns to powder.
Right.
Yeah.
And Anyway.
But none of the characters know that.
We don't know that. No. Fortunately, we did figure it out. We did eventually figure it out. Because we knew we had to keep making these history checks.
Well, tell the tale of how this happened.
I think it was Serendipity, Van Gogh, Strider, Moore, Toppler, Tower, Shepherd, Soul, Strider through Time that ultimately did it, right?
Aurora came back and
I remember her doing the oh holy crap thing when she realized.
And
yes, the Ood Any book. You remember that one?
Yes.
Every book. Yeah.
And
because you found it in the future, but then you brought it back to the past and reconnected. And
no, that was the face with the Tome of 1,000 Faces.
Yeah, they didn't have in every book, but there was one at the library chain to the library, and Aurora mentioned it. And they made their history checks, and they rolled decently high, but it wasn't high enough, and because it was a really hard check, but it was enough that Serendipity was like, there's something about this book, and she wanted to check it out, right? She was like, I remember something about this. So,
the Annie book?
Yeah. And I said if she had it in her, she remembered there was something. It was something bad. There was something. It reminded her of something bad because she was close, but not good enough. And I said, if you actually get the book, you can make an Arcana check. That'll help you. So they decided to go to the library and get the thing. So they go to leave, but the guards for the place were like, we kind of want you to stay here. But Aurora charmed the. She said, "Oh, but we want to go." And he was like, all right. They said they'd come back.
Yeah. Yes, that was right. The honor system. We were making great fun of that, about how we were under arrest under the honor system.
Yeah.
It's like, you promise you'll come back, right? It's like, oh, yes. And then we'll re-handcuff ourselves when we arrive. Or whatever. We weren't actually handcuffed. It was...
Yeah, they weren't actually town guards. They were just the guards of that place.
Yeah,
didn't want
mercenaries or whatever.
But they're like, okay, you can leave. So they rushed to the library because it was going to close, and they got there right at closing time.
And they're like, we closed 5 minutes ago, and Aurora's like, but can we come in anyway? And so they're like, all right.
And it's just like, I just want to take a look at this book. And she made this great diplomacy check, and the guy was like, well, look, I'm late for this date with this girl that I really wanted to go with for a long time, so maybe can you just take the book? Or she convinced him.
You're scrambled, right?
Yeah. To unchain the book and give it to her and be like, just make sure you get it back before we open in the morning, or I'm totally tired.
And it was great because it was like, he was asking us a favor. Could you just take the book, please? And you're like, all right, we'll just take the book. But you owe us. So we took the book back to Serendipity, Van Gogh, Strider, Moore, Toppler, Tower, Shepherd, Soul, Strider through Time.
You didn't leave with you?
No. I should also mention the disguises. We sort of realized that, we're way in the past here. Satyrs obviously don't exist yet. They're, as a race, only 16 years old.
Yeah.
They can't even drink yet. And shifters also don't exist yet.
Yeah, there are no anthropomorphic animals
of any kind. So we decided that Hank and Cricket.
So finally, they're the freaks. Actually, I guess they've been the freaks all along. No, Hank was a freak because he was the one who was born.
Yeah. He was the weirdo. Anyway, we decided we needed to disguise our animal nature. So we put on spare robes and veils that Serendipity, Van Gogh, Strider, Moore, Toppler, Tower, Shepherd, Soul, Strider through Time had.
Okay.
And she got really excited about dressing us up. She was
style.
At last they're presentable.
And someone was like, "Don't you feel weird about Hank wearing your clothes?" She's like, "Oh well, I'll never wear those again."
But this is so much better.
Yeah. So we bring the any book back to Serendipity, Pickles, Tridamora, Top Tower, Center, Scrolls, through time. And she makes her Arcana check, and she does this great holy crap thing, when she realizes that we're all going to die in 9 days.
9 days.
9 days.
Well,
that's when the any book is going to be actually activated.
Yeah, a combination of checking out the Arcana of it and also her remembering the history because of that made her remember, oh yeah, a huge cataclysm turned everyone to dust and it was some huge overload, and by the way, I can totally sense like a magical
thing,
sort of network of stuff in the air, like how these all books all connect together.
Right.
I can sense it, and I can totally, just seeing this book and knowing that there's going to be a big death thing, I can totally see how this thing's going to overload and kill everyone.
Oh,
and
wow.
That's bad, right? Like, wouldn't be obvious if you didn't know what was going to happen, but in retrospect, it's like, oh yeah, I can see it now.
So we could probably save the world just by telling someone.
Don't turn on the book.
Yeah, or that this will happen, and then they'll double check, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I see how that could go wrong. Thanks for warning us.
Yeah, because
it's like not knowing anything about like black holes or something.
Yeah.
We should smash some things together.
because Ood are like super magical, right? There's lots of Ood mages who are way higher level than Serendipity, but they just don't have the benefit of hindsight, right?
Yeah. But of course, we can't tell anyone because that would ruin everything.
Well, you'd have to, and you'd have to play some massive Jenga.
Yeah. Anyone we told it to would just get squished by a dragon. This dragon would just be following us around. And be like, excuse me, Mr. Mage. Oh.
Yeah, entirely. Why is my entire torso turned to hot dogs?
Fatty, salty, tasty, right?
That's when causality stops screwing around. It starts hot dogging people. They're like, okay, this isn't just coincidence now. After the third time, a wizard spontaneously turns into hot dogs. You start to suspect.
You know something's up.
So anyway, so it's coming into place what we must do. We have to go down to the Ood City if possible, get some wizard powder D, and bring it back and get that sigil activated.
And get out.
In 9 days. Also, it would be nice if we could do that side quest and return that cobblestone to its place of birth. Because then it would be trapped in a time loop that would be fantastic. Turns out there was no cobblestone there originally.
Return the cobblestone. And then you could test out if you're time looping.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in this case, it would just be a closed loop. The cobblestone would sit there for a while, then get incorporated into the road, then taken by some do-gooders back into the past and put back where it started. We wouldn't need to draw any Jenga blocks for that. It would be awesome. In fact, not putting it back is what's going to cause the Jenga blocks to be drawn. I'm going to use that argument next time around. See if they go for that. We have to. History demands that cobblestone must be there. Anyway. No, seriously though, we got to get there. Get the wizard powder D, come back.
There's a lot of talk about how they were going to be able to leave in the night. They're like, we don't want that guy to get fired, so we got to return the book to the library. I wonder if they have a book return slot.
No, I was the one that was insisting that we just use the book return slot.
Right.
I just assumed there was one, and everyone was like, "Oh, we gotta like wait till it's open." It's like, no, put it in the book return slot, library. And they're like, well, maybe we could break in. Like, no, put it in the book return slot.
Didn't you ultimately pick the locks,
we broke in, yes.
Put it back where it was and relock the door?
That was great, because I'm the most thievy of it all.
Yeah.
or Cricket is, they brought Cricket there and said, okay, pick the locks. And she was like, I am totally going to pick this lock for you, but I just want to say right before I do, 3 inches to the right, there's a book return slot right there. I'm now picking the lock. It's right there. If I slip, my hand goes into it by accident. But no, we broke into the library to return a book. Anyway, so that happened. And then we were like, okay, in order to get this wizard powder D, we're going to need an awful lot of money. Presumably, Elganath was going to pay for it. With like a letter of credit or something. Yeah. Because this is an advanced civilization, they don't just carry piles of gold coins around. Mm-hmm. So let's go to Elganath and get a letter of credit that we can take to that place and get the wizard powder D and then bring it back for him. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm sure he'll give it to us because we're doing this for him. But it's the middle of the night.
Well, originally, very, very early, there was some talk of like, how are we gonna steal the money so we can buy it? I was like, why do you need to steal money from the guy who wants someone to go buy something for him? You can just ask him and he'll pay you. And they're like, oh yeah.
The same reason you need to break into the library, return a book.
So, but it's the middle of the night. We want to get going as soon as we can. So we go and we sneak into Elganath's room where he's sleeping. So we wake him up to ask him to sign a letter of credit for us.
Right.
And he wakes up, he's a little woogie. He thinks he's having one of those dreams where the dream people help him design these sigils. Mm. And he will not accept that he's not in a dream. But that's okay because we don't need him to accept he's not in a dream. We just need him to sign a frickin' piece of paper.
Right.
Yeah. So we ask him, can you sign us a letter of credit?
And he's like, okay. So he takes one out. He's like, so I'll sign this dream line of credit for you, but I'm also going to leave a note for myself so in the morning I can, do the real thing. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah, because he's like, when I wake up, I'll do it for real. This won't work, obviously, because it's just a dream, but...
I don't want to break this to you guys, but you guys are just a dream version of yourself.
And we were like, yeah, we know all about that. We've that's well established at this point. So he signs a thing for us.
And Croesus must have been loving that.
Thank you.
So he goes back to sleep, and we sneak back out. And we're like, yay, we did it. And we look at the line of credit, and it's a blank piece of paper on which he has shakily written, Dream Line of Credit, signed Elganath. And we're like, oh, never mind. So we had to wait for the morning anyway, because it was just a...
I was actually, when they were doing it, I was thinking, oh yeah, this is going to work. Yeah. And then Tim was like, we're just going to have to get the real guy who has the money to sign it anyway. And I was like, oh yeah, good point. It's just a piece of paper that says Dream Line of Credit. Right. Because Elganath is the vision guy, but the other guy whose name I keep forgetting. Anyway, he's the
money guy.
He's the investor, right? So
so we decided to get some sleep after all. And in the morning, we go and talk to this guy. And we tell him, we want to rush the completion of this thing. We're going to do you a favor. We'll go and get that wizard powder D. Yeah. And we won't charge you anything for the courier part. We just want to do it and get this thing fixed up. And I remember he was really suspicious.
He was a little bit suspicious because why wouldn't you charge? And once you have it'll be a line of credit. It'll be a note of credit, so you won't be able to steal that. No, but once you have the wizard powder D, you can just make off of that, right? Yeah. But Aurora convinced him, and also Cricket said, if we're not back in 9 days, well, what was it? I'll double your money back.
Double your money back. If we're not back in 9 days, double your money back.
And he was like, okay.
Mm-hmm. You signed a contract and everything.
Yeah, they signed a contract.
Legally binding. If we're not back in 9 days. Was the contract like magically sealed so that there was a magic seal on it or something like that? That counts as a magic item that will be totally destroyed in 9 days?
I wasn't thinking.
That would be awesome. Not that we'll care. Anyway, but yeah, that's a great angle. Whenever someone's unsure, like, should we go along with this? And like, tell you what, if we're wrong in 9 days, we'll etc.
Yeah.
Well, they had to wait till the morning for that anyway, because the guy had to go to the bank, so they could like make an Ood line of credit kind of thing.
And we decided not to break into the bank to go and get a line of credit notarized and stuff. We've done enough issues where we break into a bank and then do normal, mundane, boring stuff.
Just leave a slip for the teller. I'm depositing 50 gold.
I had to break into the vault to put the gold in. It's in this safe deposit box.
I'm surprised the Ood didn't have, like, master Ood cards.
I guess they're not completely analogous to current day.
Well, they don't have the internet yet.
Yes. Once the AnyBook is running, then they'll have that sort of thing. So, we hop our eagles, and boom! And Serendipity, Big Gold Star North, top of the tower, separate soul stars through time, rolls a natural 20 on the eagles. So we get, like, the first day is super fast travel.
When they use the eagle spell plus the shadow step or something, that makes them 5 times faster or 3 times faster?
It's five times for overland travel. So we're booking it. We get great distance. We get into the Oodlands. Not too impossible, but really close.
Where'd you start?
Down in Allenway.
So they were able to fly, and that first day they flew 1,200 miles?
Something like that.
No, 1,200 kilometers.
Yeah.
That's still really far, though.
Oh, yeah.
Really far.
For an 8-hour trip, yeah. That means they were doing like 150 some odd, 120 somewhere kilometers per hour.
Though it didn't feel like that because the shadow thing makes it like magical. It felt like you were just going normal eagle speed, but then just somehow you ended up going faster.
Yeah.
It's like a warp drive.
Mm-hmm.
So we arrived at this little Ood town with like Ood farmers out in the Ood fields.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they asked if there's like Ood farmers, and there was.
In overalls and...
There was an Ood, he was sitting on a platform in like a lawn chair sipping drinks, and his brain was like hovering in front of him, and all these farm implements were like harvesting the field while he sat there sipping lemonade.
I just love the image of this Ood with his brain out there on a umbilical with telekinetic saws whirling around, and I'm like, this is. Farmers often have accidents with their equipment, right? Yeah. Anyway, so as we're approaching the town, do we get like a sending? Oh, sendings. That's right. We did.
You have to come to a certain field because there was a thing that would dispel your fly if you flew over the town.
They would dispel our eagles. So, yeah, they had air defenses basically.
Yeah.
Because the Ood are at war with the dwarves.
Right.
Super war.
Although out here it was mainly just to protect against monsters, because this is the south side and the dwarves are on the north. But yeah, they had to go in through the gate, which was just 2 poles, because it was just a force field over the town.
Yeah. And so we met with like the Ood TSA.
They make you take your shoes off.
I'm not wearing shoes.
They did do a brain scan. So they came up and as they came through, each of them their brain wasn't visible, but then their brain fell out of their mouth and they like scanned around them and used it like a
that sort of brain scan.
Their brain, actually, the ones who were using it, the stem was protected with some kind of like metallic thing, and their brain was actually inside like a glass orb. So it was like That's where orb magic comes from in the setting. And they scanned them, and they knew, because Hank and Cricket were wearing disguises.
Yeah.
And they asked them, what are you? Because they're just trying to defend against monsters.
Yeah, and so we couldn't specify too much, but Cricket said that she was a hybrid.
And the guy was just like, you disgust me.
Yeah.
Or actually, more accurately, the people who made you disgust me. You're fine.
Yeah. And the same with Hank, essentially. He said, I'm a hybrid. Completely different, of course. Completely different hybrid, but we were sufficiently ambiguous that it was basically the same thing as far as they could tell.
But, yeah, and they kind of were a little bit condescending because, these are like... the Ood are quite magical and quite powerful, and these are like, backwoods people who, their best mage is like 12th level.
Yeah.
That's like, that's like
Children.
A school dropout.
Yeah.
So
they did ask where Cricket was made, who did that, and she said, in it was in the Garden Lands or something like that, because it's not the Empire of Endless Flowers yet.
Right.
And they were like, those barbarians, they would do something horrific and perverse like that.
Yeah, I may as well mention it now, because I think it was the other set of guards that said this, but they were like, if someone, that's so wrong and illegal. If someone did that here, they would have their brain cut off for sure. That's disgusting.
Yeah. At which point, serendipity, then goes from our top of the tower, several souls try to do time. It was like, good thing you didn't say that I'd done that, or something like that.
And they checked Serendipity, but she was a gnome, not a dwarf, so they were fine. Aurora was fine.
Yeah.
Croesus was fine.
There was a second one that was a little bit iffy about Croesus.
The second one had questions about Croesus, but
the first one was
in the different town.
Yeah. When we actually got to Impossible, there was another round of TSA stuff.
So what was said about Croesus?
Sure. I'll some more code.
What's that?
Huh?
What was said about Croesus?
Oh, we'll get to that. That's in the next town. And this one they just let him in. Because there's
They were just
Oblin.
they're fine with people coming to the town. They just want to make sure no monsters and no dwarves get in. That's their whole point.
Yeah. So we find an inn. It's run by an Ood who is super duper enthusiastic.
Welcome to my inn. This is great. I'm so happy to see you.
See, it turns out Ood lack the sort of emotional tells that other races have amongst them. This guy, his profession involves interacting with other races. So he has studied their emotional signals and tells and stuff. So he tries to fake it.
Right.
And he thinks he's doing a really good job.
The other guys all seem kind of laid back because they're like, you disgust me.
Right.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of emotion, but they communicate in other ways, like with their tentacles, and their tells are tentacles and weird secretions and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
But this guy's trying to interact with non-Ood. He's putting out a lot of effort to try and give the body signals.
No one realized that for a while. They're just like, this guy is. And he's like, what kind of rooms do you want? You can have the standard room, which might be what you're used to.
And both Cricket and Croesus immediately went standard at that point.
Or you can have, I forget what we call it, the
delicious dream rooms or something like that.
A dream room where you'll have the most wonderful sleep of your entire life. It will be so delicious and so wonderful.
Yeah. And so Serendipity, Bengal Star, Mother, Topper, Tower, Shepherd, and Aurora both go for the that sounds interesting, awesome, yeah, let's do that. And Hank as well. I don't know why Hank went for that, but he did. He does like his comfort. He's got that awesome bedroll. And so they were like, yeah, okay, we'll take the delicious dream room. Yeah, that's awesome. And so they're ushered into this room with all these like big crystals, and there's a bunch of people that are lying on the crystals with their heads sort of
like the crystals are just coming out of the wall, and they just stuck their head on the crystal, and they're all
like that. And he's like, yeah, you just lie down and put your head against one of the crystals, and at which point Shannon is like, oh, I've made a horrible mistake. Why did I not think that this was some sort of horrible trap? They're gonna eat my brains or something. Cricket, why didn't you? And I was like, I was wondering, but I wasn't gonna question. I was like,
everyone was suspicious because this guy was so over the top and talking about how great this was.
Yeah. And there's all these people going like that. Meanwhile, in the standard room, Croesus and Cricket are sharing a room. And this, I think the first time this has happened. And Croesus sort of realizes, oh, wait a minute. You're female. I'm male. We're not supposed to share a room together or we'll reproduce. We need to hang a curtain between our beds to prevent us from reproducing.
So they hung a curtain.
Yeah. We had brief speculation on what their child would be like.
Oh man.
And meanwhile, the other three characters all go and lay their heads down on these crystals and go like that.
Yeah, Serendipity does it first, and everyone's like, okay.
Hypnotoad.
And apparently they have a wonderful time. It's super restful, and they have wonderful dreams, and they wake up feeling fresh and awesome. And
there you go.
Yeah.
As advertised.
Yep. I didn't seriously suspect it because, I mean, it's just an inn in a town, but it was amusing how, all the signs were there that this was some bad horror movie setup. And I really thought that everyone else had realized that too, and had sort of like, let's see where this leads. Mm-hmm. But, they just like, oh, wait a minute, holy crap. It was hilarious.
Hank actually wanted to buy one of the crystals.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But the guy was like, well, you can buy one in... Then he knew they were going to Impossible. You can just buy one there. I could sell you one, but it's a pain for me, so I'll have to mark it up. And he's like, oh, whatever, I'll just buy one in Impossible. So.
I think that was about when we realized, beyond simply, we got to save our lives and get out of here, we could make a fortune doing a trade caravan thing. Mm-hmm. Because when the Ood civilization went up in dust, pretty much all of their magic items went up too.
Yep.
But it's all here right now for sale for cheap. And some of us haven't done our item shopping yet. And we have an enormous amount of money. Which is still legal tender 2,000 years in the past, apparently. It's gold, I guess.
Yeah. Where are these coins from?
All around. Anyway. So yeah, we figure when we get to Impossible, we'll buy the Wizard Powder D, and then since we've been making great time, we are actually ahead of schedule. We can afford to spend a day buying trade goods. And since it's all going to go to dust anyway, it's not going to be any Jenga blocks being pulled when we buy various things.
Right.
I mean, I suppose it's possible that we go into a store and there's like this rack of 1,000 awesome thingies, and one of those will be one that survives to the modern day. We can't buy that one. So we'll try to figure out some way to try and determine if we're buying something that a Jenga block would be pulled for.
Right.
But
you need like another history MacKaiser.
Yeah.
detect stuff.
It did come up because Serendipity was going to use read object, and the wording says you can ask anything from the object's entire existence. And so she's like, oh, can I see about the future of this object? Because we know what it is, but no, that's clearly not what they intended.
So we wake up all refreshed in the morning. Cricket and Croesus had not reproduced. Shoot! There was a curtain.
That was close.
Yeah. Good thing he remembered that.
Good trouble.
And so we take off on the Eagles and we head to Impossible. And we get there like midday, since we're making such awesome time. We land, we go through another TSA routine. And this is the one where they got a little bit touchy. Yeah, they're a little touchier about Croesus this time around.
I mean, they're closer to the front lines, and it's a big city, right? So they're just more. They actually want to like find out about the people coming and going.
Yeah. So they recognize that he is not Panoblin and that he is damaged. So he's damaged off.
I don't think they realized he was damaged.
Huh?
No, they just realized.
Isn't it pretty obvious?
I guess he looks weird, but when you guys were in Greywall, it was super obvious.
Yeah.
Like every Oblin in Greywall was like, remember they were like, would you like me to kill you?
Yeah.
But to non-Oblin, it's not as obvious. I mean, he does look kind of messed up, but you're like, I mean, how many Oblin have you seen anyway?
Yeah. But they did recognize he wasn't Panoblin though, right? Because he said he was from Greywall or something like that.
I think they asked him where he was from, and they realized, oh, you're not Panoblin, you're Oblin. And they're like, oh, you must be here to, attain enlightenment. You must be here to learn Panoblin
You want to become a Panoblin. And Croesus is like,
no, I'm not going to be a deserter. I'm not a deserter. And he started getting really agitated and freaking out in the middle of the security checkpoint.
Yep. And so we're like, oh crap, he's having a mental breakdown in the middle of the TSA checkpoint. And so we were like, calm down, 1, 2, 3, etc.
They told them, look, we're just taking charge of him. And the guards are like, oh, okay, I see. He's upset, but you're going to help him become a Panoblin. I think that'll really help him. You're doing a really good thing.
Yeah.
What was the Panoblin thing again?
They quit with the whole, obsession about the world's wound thing and decided
that there was a higher law than the law of the Oblin, and that natural law was the most important. So basically, they've instead of focusing on closing the world's wound and following the law, they're all about essentially science and logic, which is obviously very similar and very Oblin-y, but different. And the Oblin consider them deserters because they've
given up the great cause. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they've even given it up. They just aren't focusing on it 100%.
Well, and they actually see the Oblin as backwards because they're like, no, this is the real law. This is what really matters.
You guys are stuck in the Middle Ages back there with your obsession. So we managed to get him through the checkpoint, sort of by reassuring them that we're his caregivers. We'll keep an eye on him. We'll keep him safe and not let him make a ruckus.
And they were equally horrified about Hank and Cricket, but they also were kind of pragmatic about it. That really their creators were the monsters, and they were just the victims.
Right.
Yes. I remember one of them going on this big long spiel about the perverse horror of Cricket's creation and how you're a vile abomination upon the universe, and Cricket was like, as you say, serve this. Your civilization is here in a week. she normally doesn't rise to that sort of thing, but he went on for such length. She just had to get that little shot in. It was tiny little passive-aggressive shot.
That's pretty good.
So they didn't really have any trouble at the checkpoint per se. It just it was decently guarded. There was lots of people coming and going. It was a huge
It's a big
high fantasy city, right? It's huge, full of like there's flying stuff everywhere. They're flying their eagles in. There's people on magic carpets. There's people on eagles. There's food just flying along.
Imagining its brain flying along, it's just hanging.
Yeah, it's full of magic, full of ood, and there's quite a few Panoblin there too, and a mixture of other races, and there's lots going on. So I guess I think it would have been it'd be a real shock. It'd be like a medieval person just coming to. Impossible isn't one of the biggest cities. It's sort of like the Edmonton of Oodland or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, really?
It's not one of the big ones, but it's a decent city. Yeah. It's a city, but it's not like a big one. And
well, I don't know. It's impressive and all, but it's not on treads. So we've seen better.
But
we've seen more impressive. It's not on a bridge suspended over a chaos chasm, is it? No, not really. It's just a city. Yeah.
They started making their way to where the Wizard Powder D was supposed to be, which the guy had given them instructions: take this rock, and it'll glow, and you're right in the next door, and you knock 3 times.
We're clearly going to a bootlegger place, not the official place.
Yeah, and but as they were going, they didn't have as much time to take it in, because everywhere they went, all the Panoblin, as Croesus went by, were like turning and staring at him.
Yeah.
And one of them came up and said, excuse me, do you know what's wrong with him?
Yeah.
And they're like, I don't know what they said, but he's like, would it be okay? Could I study him?
He really started getting in our face, and we started off just sort of like, no, it's okay, whatever, but he just would not quit, and so at the end there, we were starting to get really aggressive at him.
Because it's like, I just want to study him, it's for the greater good.
Yeah, and so Croesus started walking fast, and Cricket was like physically trying to block this guy.
And she said something like, because he said, they were saying he's a person, not a sample, and it's like, of course he's a person, but for the greater good, it's important that we study him. It's fascinating. And Cricket said something like, as soon as you say he's a person, but you made a mistake, he said, where's your evidence for that opinion? And but they weren't really engaging that much, and so finally Aurora just like flashed red, and everyone got kind of aggressive. And
Aurora rolled intimidate on him.
Yeah. He's like, all right, fine. It's obvious you've lost this argument and you're turning to anger, so I'll leave. But I just want to make it clear that you were wrong.
But it's okay, because we were like, dust in 7 days.
Yeah, they keep meeting people that are not keep making them very sympathetic.
Yeah.
But
we don't want to play Jenga for you.
No, they didn't answer his argument very well.
No, why did we need to?
Exactly. We didn't need to. It's just, to be fair, he was just approaching it rationally.
Yeah.
So, and then like everywhere they go, the Panoblin are staring at Croesus. Similar to when he was in Greywall, but it seems like their interest is more like fascination rather than pity.
I love how dogmatic Cricket is about personal rights and stuff like that. No, he's a person. Full stop. That's all you need. There's no shades of gray here.
And that's basically where they left off. They were just going through the neighborhood.
Yep. I remember, I'm sure I brought this up, but I don't know if we actually decided on anything. I was thinking we should possibly do our shopping for trade goods stuff before we go for the Wizard Powder D. Since we are going clearly to bootleggers, something's going to go wrong. It always does.
You get kicked out of town?
We get kicked out of town. And then, or like, oh yeah, you shouldn't have bought the bootleg stuff. You're going to go to jail. It's just a 6-day,
minor
infraction.
Yeah.
It's like, But yeah, so that's where things left off. Oh yes, that's right. During the attempt to get away, Croesus started sort of almost running, and Serendipity, Van Goldstars, Lore, Toppler, Tower, Shepherd, Soul, Strides Through Time was trying to keep up, but with her deedly little gnome legs, she wasn't able to keep up. So she cast Tensor's Disc and tried to hook a rope onto Croesus so that she'd get pulled along. But Croesus wasn't having any of that. And so she instead hooked the rope on Cricket.
Right.
And so Cricket was like, okay, harness up, and running out ahead. And Serendipity, Van Goldstars, Lore, Toppler, Tower, Shepherd, Soul, Strides Through Time, has this parasol, and she's sitting on this thing, being drawn by a satyr.
Yeah.
And she was like, this is fantastic. Why didn't I think of this before? Cricket drawn carriage. It's fantastic. It's beautiful. And I'm all dressed up in her robes and stuff too, so I actually look presentable. And so she's having the time of her life while Croesus is having this total mental breakdown. Poor Croesus. Everywhere we go,
what's wrong with you?
There's always something that makes everything worse.
Yeah.
As Tim has said on several occasions, he had planned his character arc was going to be that he would recover.
Yeah.
And everything that has happened right from the very first second of the campaign has been just designed to just break his brain more.
One thing we didn't mention was the Tome of 1,000 Faces and Ascending.
Yeah, that's right. I actually thought of that, and then I forgot about it again. Okay. Yeah.
Aurora opened up the Tome of 1,000 Faces because she wanted to see if her old self was on there. And her old self hadn't posted. Well, first it said there's an error that the current timestamp says it's 9 days in the future from today, so something's clearly messed up. And then, because the last post it knows about is 9 days from now, which doesn't make sense.
So she just clicked through the error.
And
is it called clicking?
No, because it's you write and whatever.
Yeah.
But I think you just turn the page and you can ignore it. And there was no post for her for a few months, but then there was a post today saying, I can't tell you everything that's going on, but you should trust Kylenar.
Kylenar is the guy that gave us the quest way back when and said, don't open the box. Would have changed things if we'd had that
post.
But yeah, so
Kylenar may seem like an idiot, but no, really.
Yeah, don't open the box. So we were left sort of thinking, okay, well, first of all, one of Aurora's friends from back then was online. Someone named Siri. I know, I got the same thing.
Aurora tried to post something, like, is this real? Is this... She put a comment on her own post.
Yeah.
And her friend was like, Aurora, are you okay? I haven't seen you for a while. What's going on?
A friend named Siri. And she was like, Siri, it's all right. But anyway, so she did write back to Siri, right?
Yeah, and Siri, I guess through the thing, Siri came to the conclusion that Aurora had died and reincarnated and just randomly happened to find another Tome of 1,000 Faces.
Right.
And she was really excited about how what the future is going to hold. Now with the Tome of 1,000 Faces, it's so much easier to get re in touch with your old friends once you've reincarnated. So she's super excited about the future of this technology.
Yeah.
And so then we started thinking, okay, sendings. You can send to someone if you know them. Could we send to the Aurora of this time? If we do a sending to Aurora, what happens?
Right.
Because there's two of her right now. Also, Kylenar. He might actually be around. He might be one of the immortal elves from olden days.
Yeah.
Because some of them are still kicking around. And so we were like, can we do a sending to Kylenar? Yeah. We know him. He doesn't know us yet.
Yeah.
And if we did do a sending to Kylenar, what could we say that wouldn't draw Jenga blocks? We ultimately decided not to try sending to Kalinar because I couldn't think of anything I could say that wouldn't draw Jenga blocks and that would have some benefit. Because I couldn't think of any benefit to it.
Troll him.
Yeah.
I am your conscience.
This is a prophecy. Thousands of years hence, you will need to courier a box. Pay 500 gold pieces to this crappy little party. Whoa. They'll get the job done. Whoa. You can trust them. Maybe we do need to do that. That's the only way to explain why he did that. Yeah.
He's not the idiot. You're the idiot.
We have to be the idiot. It's the only way the universe works. We were idiots because we were idiots. The moment is structured that way. Anyway. I wonder if we're going to have to do that. We could do that. We could leave a prophecy for Kalinar saying, hey, trust these guys. And anyway. And then maybe Kalinar will learn not to trust any old prophecy that comes along. So I think we did try sending to Aurora.
Yes.
I sent
specifically to past Aurora.
To past Aurora. Were we able to distinguish like that? Did current Aurora also get it in her head, or
she didn't?
She didn't.
We did specifically.
Yeah, we did.
That it was past Aurora.
So we were able to send to past Aurora. And I'm trying to remember what we told her.
We said we're your friends from the future, and I don't remember what you said.
We figured it was pretty safe telling her stuff because she goes through so many reincarnations until she gets to now. She'll probably forget everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, she said as much that she couldn't really remember much from back then.
Yeah, I think you just said generic stuff like we're your future friends.
Sort of introducing like, hey, would you like to talk?
Or what happened to you? Like what's going on right now, right?
Yeah.
And she said, well, I like to think that anyone is my future friend, but I don't really remember much because I just woke up under a tree recently, so I don't really remember.
And it's
anything.
Weird because she had posted on the Tome of a Thousand Faces just like hours previously.
Right.
And then she died.
Yeah.
And so, there must have been some really cool thing happen where she's like, the monsters are pounding on the door and she frantically opens the Tome of a Thousand Faces.
Peeling an orange.
It's very, very, very important. You trust Kalinar. Stab through, there's a splatter of blood onto the tome. It would be awesome.
Dear Diary, so here we are, or hence we are in the past. There's like 4 things really interesting about this time. Number 1, I'm here, as well as being here, which is very interesting, but apparently I just died and woke up. So, and I know about Kalinar, so I'm going to have to get Cricket to explain to me what's going on about that, because I don't really understand what's going on. Maybe we can find me and ask me about it, but first we have to prevent my friends from dying. Another thing that's interesting is, of course, there are Ood here and Panoblin. It's so amazing getting to talk to them, except not the Panoblin. Well, maybe the other ones. Well, anyway, the Ood were very interesting, and I really want to get to know some Ood children just to see what kind of games they play and stuff. That would be really nice. And there are also lots of amazing magical things here that I'm very curious about. And the food is delicious. Wow, so good. But I just feel like we're walking around and all these people are going to die. And they don't know it. It's like being in a graveyard. But nobody knows they're dead. It's like these people are already dead. They died a long time ago. I'm so tired of watching people die. I'm so tired of being the one who lives.
This is how you go through the streets. Cricket pulling, floating, got my parasol. This is perfect. And Cricket and Hank actually look presentable. Only 2 more party members to go. I'll get it one of these days.
So Ood, huh? These guys are interesting. They got these brain things hanging out of their mouth. I guess we already knew about that, I think. But, they're strange creatures, but I guess they were normal back then, which is now, and some of them are kind of jerks, but that's okay. They'll be dead in a few days. Does that mean? Yeah, but it doesn't matter.
This is a nightmare. I just wanted to wake up. And there are deserters everywhere trying to talk to me. And they won't go away. And I just wanted to wake up. I'm not trying to desert. I'm not. I just want to go back to I want everything to be like it was. And Saren, that gnome keeps making everything more complicated than it needs to be. I want to go home.